What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one wants to break down what's going on with NIO and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what the news is saying about NIO and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break anything down all this information, before I talk about what's happening with NIO, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and this offer ends very soon. It ends in just about a couple of weeks. So anyways, now let's talk about NIO. Let's talk about the market and how things are looking. NIO is currently down 2.71% for the day, dropping quite a bit, approaching the 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. And it's looking kind of weak right now. But the question is, how will the market affect NIO, and what are some other factors affecting the share price? I want to talk about that first before I break down the technicals. First off, there's some news that came out. We have the numbers from Germany that came out. NIO had about 39 deliveries, and this is very, very important stuff. This is the German deliveries that came out for December of 2023, and I think that this says November. It's supposed to say December, so this is a small mistake. But this is according to carnewschina.com. And the reason why this is important is because we saw a slight decline when it comes to European automotive market. So it's the whole market that slowed down a bit. That's what contributed to why on earth we saw BYD. BYD was up a bit, but other companies such as NIO were a little bit down. In total, we did see an increase for the entire year, the entire year. But for the month of December, they were a little bit down, at least in Germany in itself. On top of that, looking at NIO for 2023, we had about 1,200 deliveries just in Germany, which is not bad. And it's going to continue to grow throughout different parts of Europe. So Germany is just one part of Europe. NIO is more popular and more common in China. So we'll be watching to see more changes in the future. But for now, these are just how the numbers are looking. We have the monthly registrations here. We had some increases in like August, also in October. But December was a little bit weak for NIO, at least for just Germany alone. Not really that big of a deal because Germany is not that like major for NIO's delivery numbers. China is what matters more. But I'm still very hopeful that things can improve going into next year. Now, with that being said, there's more news coming up about how NIO may have beefed up its balance sheet, but challenges are lingering. That is true technically. I'm going to just say that I do agree with a lot of points in this article. Yes, NIO has improved its balance sheet. It's getting big investments from Abu Dhabi, especially as it's raising billions of dollars. But there is an issue, and that is the issue of profitability. NIO announced lots and lots of these price cuts, and with demand slowing down in China, I must be honest with you guys, there could be some difficulties still emerging, especially with the high interest rates in the US, which is still affecting different parts of the world. In China, there's some issues with demand which have been argued. With demand potentially slowing down, that could once again affect NIO's prices. So that's why NIO has been lowering prices, and for that reason, it's becoming more difficult for it to become profitable. This is getting it a lot of criticism, and what I want to say about that is this: NIO is going to continue to scale, and the more they scale, by scaling, they could get closer to profitability. The reason for that is because of more efficient cost-cutting mechanisms that the CEO, William Lee Bin, was talking about. Now, on top of that, I just want to mention that as NIO's sales are growing, NIO is still investing more money into more efficient systems. More efficient systems on the production lines could help them, not to mention the fact that they have other products such as NIO Phone and such. But I do want to agree with this article that NIO might not be profitable for many, many months, for another year or so. It's going to take a while for them to get to profitability. But I am confident in their improvements that are being made. I think NIO will get closer to it. They just need more time. We have to see what they end up doing to cut more costs. On top of this, there's news coming out that Goldman Sachs has given NIO a neutral rating. They're saying that NIO, in my opinion, or at least in their opinion, could still perform equally with that of the market. They did mention that in 12 months they see $8 for NIO, but for the long term, they did mention that there's even more potential. It may take even longer. Now, they also mentioned that right over here, their growth momentum may remain a little soft, which is why they give it a neutral rating. They're saying it might not be as aggressive as something like Tesla, but with the growth momentum that's developing, they mentioned that with the new models coming out as time goes on, there could be more growth volume as well. So they mentioned right over here, the revenue growth has a compound annual growth of 31%. And they also mentioned 40% volume growth as a real possibility. And they mentioned that the sales should be going up between 11 and 14%, a little bit below expectations, but they still believe that it's capable of growing. So they're saying that yes, NIO is capable of showing growth, but expectations shouldn't be extremely high because they don't think it's going to be that strong. They're saying it might be a little bit soft. So for that reason, they do have a nice rating for NIO, at least for like the much longer term. They're saying that, especially in 2026, positive free cash flow is going to help their financial stresses, but they're still bullish long term, very, very long term. They did mention that there is potential for it. For the short term, for this year, they're not seeing like insane growth for it in their opinions. So that's worth noting from Goldman Sachs. Now, the NIO EL7 user in Germany basically stated that they've rarely been excited about driving as a car as this one. So that's something, excuse me, interesting that NIO mentioned. Besides that, we had about 38 million in volume, very low volume, nothing really changing, at least in terms of data. Price miss ratio is still down a little bit. When it comes to daily seasonality, it has a tendency of being green only about 53% of the time. And there's not much else changing from here. But I do want to call out one more thing. I think I forgot to mention the very important things right here. Looking at the economic data, I just want to mention that for tomorrow, don't forget that NIO is going to be looking at some more interesting data. And this data is going to affect the whole markets, which could affect NIO. We have non-farm payrolls coming out about an hour before market open. Then we have the labor force participation rate and more unemployment data coming out for tomorrow. The unemployment numbers can cause a big move in the market, so watch and see how we move. But technicals still look kind of bearish, at least as we approach tomorrow. So with that being said, let's break down some charts very quickly. Unfortunately for NIO, we have a head and shoulders like pattern that's developing. I don't know if this would count as completing the right shoulder. We have a left shoulder here. We have a head. I don't know if we're going to bounce first. If we do bounce tomorrow, look for a test of like 8.5 to 9. And then we come back down to form the right shoulder. But if the right shoulder fails us, if we just lose the 200 EMA at 8.19 immediately, then NIO could start sinking back down towards $8 and coming back down again. It is unfortunate, guys. NIO is going to take a while to get some very, very big moves to the upside. That's because of external factors, negative news, and also what other analysts are saying. So with that being said, in my opinion, it depends on the 200 EMA. We might see this thing bounce off the 200 EMA and test 8.5 first before it comes back down, or it might just come back down from here. The setup looks a little bearish, and the market's looking kind of bearish too, which could slow NIO down. But please note that from a fundamental standpoint, most of the news that came out for NIO is bullish because NIO got strong deliveries, their numbers are not looking bad, and there's still so much growth potential for the company nonetheless. As far as SPY goes, this is looking kind of weak. It failed to break. It failed to get a bounce, basically, and it ended up losing 468. That means that, we have some support at 467, but there's no guarantee it's going to hold. If we lose that, 465 is next. We might see this thing sink towards 465 and then make an attempt to balance, but it is looking kind of weak. There could be more downside coming. For Tesla, we're kind of curling a little bit. We're trying to base at 236. We'll see if this holds. It might try to pop in the morning to retest 240 and come back down. It might just range trade for a bit. It's still looking kind of weak. It failed to get a breakout. It's still looking not the strongest. So we might just see some sideways price action depending on how Friday goes. But the technicals don't look that great for Tesla. It is trying to turn, but it might just trade, in my opinion, kind of sideways between 236 and about 240. So I might just see a lot of sideways price action. Apple's looking kind of weak. This attempted to bounce, but it's just trying to base at 180. Going to be looking for this hold of 180 and see if it could try to bounce off of this. It might retest 180 and see if it could hold that or not. If we fail to hold it, expect some more downside. On the QQQ, we're also looking kind of weak. If it loses 396, expect a test of 393 at the 200 EMA. That is likely going to be coming as well. Nvda attempted to bounce with a nice inverse head and shoulder setup. It could be forming a cup and handle, so this is actually showing more potential to me than SPY. Look for a backtest of 476. It could actually retrace just a little bit more, form like a handle. This has a cup, and maybe the handle's about to form before it bounces. So watch that as well. And besides that, that's what I'm seeing for the markets. So as far as NIO goes, SPY and Tesla are looking kind of weak, which could slow NIO down. We might get one more bounce to 8.5 and then come back down to form a right shoulder and come back down for a head and shoulders. Or what could happen is NIO it fails to form the right shoulder. This is the right shoulder here. We just lose 8.19. So watch the 200 EMA. If we bounce, we could form one more little peak before it comes back down. If we fail to hold the 200 EMA at 8.19 on the 4-hour time frame, expect NIO to come down to $8 for another drop. So it's unfortunate, but that's what I'm seeing on the chart. The best thing I could do is just be honest with everyone for now. With that being said, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.